Michael Carter stood near Gate 27 at JFK Airport, with his backpack slung over one shoulder. He had just arrived from Seattle, where he gave a presentation at a technology conference. It had gone really well. People had clapped. Some even came up to him afterward to thank him for sharing his ideas about making software more accessible to older people. Michael felt proud, but also very tired. All he wanted now was to get home to Atlanta, take a long shower, and hug his dog. "Buddy," the airport was buzzing with noise. Flight announcements echoed from the speakers. Children ran around laughing. People rushed by with rolling suitcases, coffee in hand. It was a normal day, busy, loud, full of travelers trying to get somewhere. Michael found a seat near the gate and looked at his phone. He had 25 minutes until boarding. He sighed and leaned back in the plastic chair. His phone buzzed. Was his sister texting to say she'd pick him up from the airport in Atlanta? He smiled and typed back, "Thanks. See you soon." Just a few seats away, a woman was having a very different morning. Her name was Denise Walton. She was in her early 50s, with neat blonde hair and an expensive coat that matched her polished shoes. Her flight had been delayed twice already, and she wasn't happy about it. She kept looking at her watch, then at the gate agent, then at the people around her. She grumbled under her breath and crossed her arms tightly across her chest. Denise didn't like being uncomfortable. She didn't like crowds, noise, or people she thought were too loud. And right now, she especially didn't like the fact that her phone battery had died. She muttered something about how the airport should have better charging stations. Then she sighed loudly, hoping others would notice. Michael's phone rang. It was a call from his coworker, checking in about a software update. Michael stood up, walked a few steps closer to the window to get better reception, and quietly answered. "Hey, I just landed," he said. "Everything's good." That's when Denise's eyes narrowed. She saw Michael step ahead of the line near the boarding area, still talking on the phone. She assumed he was cutting in line, even though there wasn't a formal line formed yet. She stood up quickly and walked toward him. "Excuse me," said her voice sharp. "You need to go to the back like everyone else." Michael turned toward her, confused. "Sorry?" he asked politely. "I'm just taking a call. I'm not trying to cut in line." Denise didn't seem to listen. She stepped closer. "I've been waiting here for 2 hours," she said. "We don't get special treatment." Michael tried to remain calm. He didn't want a scene. "Ma'am," he said gently, "I completely understand your frustration. But I'm not cutting the line. I'm just standing over here so I don't disturb anyone." But Denise wasn't calming down. She was already worked up. People nearby started to glance over. Some pulled out their phones quietly, sensing that something was about to happen. Then, in a moment that caught everyone off guard, Denise did something shocking. She raised her hand and slapped Michael across the face. Gasps filled the terminal. For a split second, everything froze. Michael stood still, stunned. His phone nearly slipped from his hand. He slowly turned his face and looked at her, eyes full of disbelief. He hadn't said anything rude. He hadn't touched her. And yet here he was, being treated like he didn't belong. Denise stepped back as if expecting him to yell or lose control. Michael didn't. He didn't even raise his voice. He just looked her in the eye and said, in a firm, clear voice, "Don't ever touch me again." That one sentence echoed louder than anything else in that moment. Passengers nearby couldn't believe what they had seen. A young girl sitting with her dad had recorded the whole thing on her phone. Others started whispering, asking each other, "Did she really just hit him? Why did she do that? He wasn't even doing anything wrong." Denise looked around and realized people were staring at her not with support, but with disappointment. The confidence she had only seconds ago began to melt away. Michael remained calm, but inside, his heart was beating fast. His hands were slightly trembling, not out of fear, but from shock. He knew if the situation was reversed, people would probably assume the worst about him. He had seen it happen to others, but he also knew he had to stay composed. That's how he was raised. Within minutes, 2 airport security guards arrived, alerted by a gate agent who had seen the incident. They approached both of them and asked what happened. Denise spoke first, her tone defensive. "He was trying to cut in line. I told him to move and he got aggressive. Michael looked at the security officers, still composed. I didn't get aggressive, he said. I was standing here taking a phone call. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't move toward her. She hit me. There are people who saw everything. Some even recorded it. The officers turned to the nearby passengers. Several stepped forward, confirming Michael's story. The teenage girl who filmed it played the video for the officers. It was clear and undeniable. Michael didn't press charges, even though he had the right to. I just want to go home, he said. I don't want to make this worse than it already is. But it wasn't over. Not really. As he sat back down, waiting to board, the video had already started to spread online. The girl who filmed it had posted it with the caption, "He stayed calm. She didn't. This is wrong." The video showed the moment clearly, Michael speaking gently, Denise stepping in, and then the slap. Within 30 minutes, the video was being shared on social media by people who didn't even know who he was. They just knew what they saw. Some called it shocking. Others said it was sadly familiar. Denise was told by security that she would not be allowed to board her flight. She protested, saying it wasn't fair. But the video didn't lie, and neither did the witnesses. Michael finally boarded his flight. To Atlanta? He didn't say much. He didn't want attention. But in the back of the plane, a woman leaned over and whispered, "You handled that with grace. Thank you for staying calm." Michael gave a small smile and nodded. He looked out the window as the plane took off. He had no idea what would happen next, but the moment at Gate 27 was already beginning to spark a larger conversation. One he hadn't planned to start, but one that was clearly needed. The plane landed in Atlanta, just before sunset. Michael Carter stepped out into the warm air, thankful to be home. His sister, Jasmine, was already waiting outside in the pickup area. She gave him a tight hug and looked at his face carefully. "You okay?" she asked softly. Michael nodded. "Long day," he replied with a tired smile. "I'll tell you everything in the car." As they drove through the city, Michael shared what had happened at the airport, explained how a woman had mistaken his quiet phone call for line cutting, and how she had reacted in a way that shocked everyone around. Jasmine listened in silence, her hands gripping the steering wheel a little tighter. When Michael finished telling her, she shook her head slowly. "I'm proud of you," she said. "You handled it the right way, his dignity. But I hate that it even happened." Michael leaned back in his seat. "Yeah, me too." Got home, he finally relaxed. Buddy, his golden retriever, ran in circles, happy to see him. Michael gave him a belly rub, and then sat down to check his phone. That's when he saw it. His name wasn't mentioned. But the video of the incident had now crossed over 1 million views. People were commenting rapidly, sharing it again and again. The girl who had filmed it had posted a short caption with the video. "I recorded this today at JFK. He was calm. She wasn't. Watch what happened." In the video, Michael stood quietly, talking on the phone. Denise approached him, clearly upset. Then the moment of contact, the sharp turn of Michael's face, and his calm reply, "Don't ever touch me." Again, the clip ended with gasps from the people around. Michael read the comments under the post. Some were filled with support. Others shared similar experiences. One person wrote, "He handled that better than I ever could." Another said, "This is what happens too often to people who just want to be treated with respect." Michael was surprised by how fast it was spreading. Friends began texting him, "Is this you? I saw the video. Are you okay?" You're all over social media. He wasn't sure how to feel. On one hand, he had done nothing wrong. On the other, he never wanted attention like this. The next morning, his phone rang early. It was his coworker Brian, "Man," he said. "You're trending. I saw the video just now. Can't believe it. Everyone in the office is talking." About it, Michael sighed. "I didn't expect any of this." Brian paused. "You did the right thing, Michael. You stayed calm. That's what people are responding to. Honestly, it's powerful." Michael wasn't convinced. He felt like his privacy had been taken away. He didn't ask to be part of a viral moment. But at the same time, something inside him knew this video was opening people's eyes. Later that day, a local news station called him. They asked if he'd be willing to do a short interview. First, Michael said no. He didn't want to be on camera again, just wanted to move on. But after he hung up, he sat quietly and thought about it. What if his silence allowed the wrong story to spread? What if people only saw the clip, but didn't understand the full picture? What if other people like him, calm, respectful, and wrongly judged, were watching and needed to see someone speak up, not with anger, but with clarity? So he called the station back and agreed. The interview was filmed the next afternoon. It was simple, just a conversation. Michael explained what happened. He spoke slowly and clearly. He said he didn't want anyone to be humiliated or ruined, but that the moment revealed a bigger problem. A problem that had existed quietly for years. People making quick judgments based on skin color, voice, or appearance. I didn't yell, he said in the interview. I didn't step out of line, but still, she thought I was doing something wrong. That says a lot about how people see others. He talked about how important it is to stay calm, even when the situation feels unfair, and how dangerous it can be when people make assumptions without listening or looking at the full picture. The interview was only 5 minutes long, but it touched a nerve. The next day it aired on TV and was shared online. Thousands of people watched it. Celebrities reposted the clip, writing messages like, "This is the example we need right now," and "Grace under pressure, respect." Michael's quiet voice was now being heard across the country. Meanwhile, the woman from the airport, Denise Walton, had also seen the video. At first, she didn't believe it would spread. She thought people would take her side. But when her name began to appear online, things changed quickly. People recognized her from social media. Some found her public profile and screenshots of her old posts. Started surfacing comments she had made years ago, that others now saw as inappropriate or insensitive. The law firm where she worked issued a short statement saying that they had reviewed the situation and that Denise was no longer employed there. They didn't mention her by name, but everyone understood what it meant. Denise released a short apology through a lawyer. She said she had made a mistake, that her actions were out of stress and confusion, but many felt the apology came too. Leighton didn't truly show understanding. Michael, when asked about it, said simply, "I'm not looking to destroy anyone's life. I just hope this makes people think twice before acting out of fear or frustration." He didn't want revenge. He wanted reflection as days passed. Michael received messages from people across the country and even from outside the USA. Teacher in Canada wrote to say she played the interview in class. Father in South Africa said he showed the video. To his teenage sons, as an example of strength and respect, one message came from a mother in New Jersey. She wrote, "My son is 14. He's quiet, kind, and thoughtful. He's also black. Watching how you handled that moment gave him courage. Thank you, Michael." Read the message twice. He sat for a long moment, then finally smiled. He hadn't planned to be a voice for anything, just wanted to catch a flight home. But maybe, just maybe, this moment at the airport was meant to become something more. Maybe it was meant to light a path, even if just a small one, for others who were tired of being misunderstood or judged too quickly. And while Michael still had questions, one thing was clear. His story had already touched heartsand that was more powerful than any slap could ever be. After the interview aired, Michael's life changed in ways he'd never expected. Suddenly, he was receiving messages from people all over the world. Some were strangers who had seen the video online and wanted to thank him for the way he handled the situation. Others were friends and family who said they felt proud of him. But there were also people who wanted to know more about Michael's story, who he was, what he believed in, and what he hoped would come from this moment. At first, Michael found all the attention a little overwhelming. He was a private person, someone who loved his quiet routine. But he also understood that the moment was bigger than himself. It had become a symbol, a reminder that respect and calmness can be powerful in a world that sometimes feels filled with anger and misunderstanding. One day, a representative from a nonprofit organization called Voices for Equality reached out to Michael. They had seen his interview and thought he could help raise awareness about the everyday challenges many people face because of unfair judgments. The organization worked to provide support and legal help to people who experienced discrimination. Michael agreed to meet with them. At their office, Michael met a group of people who shared stories similar to his own, stories of quiet strength in the face of unfair treatment. They talked about ways to use the power of social media to educate people, create better training for businesses, and support those who often felt alone. Michael listened carefully, feeling a sense of purpose growing inside him. Soon after, Michael began working with the organization to launch a campaign called Stand with Grace. The campaign encouraged people to treat others with kindness, patience, and respect, even in stressful situations. It shared real stories of people like Michael who showed courage without anger. The goal was to remind everyone that it's possible to respond to injustice with dignity and still demand respect. The campaign quickly gained attention. Videos, posters, and messages appeared online, encouraging people to think twice before acting in frustration. Schools started inviting Michael to speak about his experience. His calm, thoughtful words inspired young people who were learning about respect and fairness for the first time. One day, Michael received an invitation to speak at a city council meeting. The topic was improving airport safety and customer service. Michael thought back to his experience at JFK and realized this was a chance to make a real difference. At the meeting, he spoke not only about his own story, but also about the importance of training airport staff and security workers to handle difficult situations with understanding and care. The city council members listened carefully. They agreed that airports should be safe and welcoming for everyone, no matter their background. Soon, plans were made to improve training programs across the airport system in the city. Michael felt proud that his experience was helping to create positive change. Meanwhile, the video of the airport incident continued to circulate. It sparked conversations, not just online, but in homes, workplaces, and communities. People began sharing their own stories of times when they or someone they loved had been treated unfairly. These conversations were sometimes difficult, but they were important. Michael understood that changing hearts and minds would take time. He often thought about Denise Walton, the woman who had slapped him. He hoped she was learning from the experience. He didn't want her to be punished forever. Instead, he wished for a future where people could pause, listen, understand each other better. One afternoon, Michael received a surprising letter in the mail. It was from Denise herself. She apologized again for her actions and wrote about how the incident had made her reflect deeply on her own biases and fears. She said she was committed to learning and growing and hoped one day they could find peace with what had happened. Michael read the letter slowly. He didn't feel anger. Instead, he felt the weight of forgiveness. He decided to write back, thanking her for her honesty and encouraging her to continue her journey toward understanding. As the months passed, Michael's story took on a life of its own. He was invited to talk on radio shows, podcasts, and even at universities. He used every opportunity to share his message of grace, respect, and strength. He reminded people that sometimes the bravest thing is not to fight with fists or words, but to stay calm and demand fairness in a peaceful way. Despite all the attention, Michael never lost sight of his own life. He continued working as a software engineer, spending time with family and friends, and caring for Buddy, who still loved their evening walks in the park. He believed that small actions like treating someone with kindness or standing up quietly for what is right could build a better world. One moment at a time, his nonprofit, Stand with Grace, grew steadily. They held workshops and community events. They partnered with schools, companies, and local governments. More importantly, they gave hope to people who felt powerless or ignored. One of the most powerful moments came when a group of high school students wrote letters to Michael, sharing how his story had inspired them to be kinder and braver. Some said they had faced bullying or unfair treatment, but hearing about Michael helped them believe they could rise above it. Michael kept those letters close. They reminded him why he had chosen to speak out. His journey wasn't easy. There were days when he felt tired or frustrated by how slow change could be, but he never gave up. Remembered the moment at Gate 27, how fear and anger had almost taken over, but calmness had won. Michael hoped that his story would encourage others to choose the same path, to stand with grace. Let me know if you want me to continue with part 4. The days following Michael's growing public presence were busy and full of new experiences. He found himself invited to many events, conferences, community meetings, even local schools. At each place, people listened closely to his story. They were touched not just by what happened at the airport, but by how he chose to respond, with calmness, dignity, and respect. One afternoon, Michael was invited to a national television program. The show was popular and watched by millions. As the cameras began rolling, Michael felt a mix of nerves and excitement. He knew this was a chance to reach even more people, to share his message beyond his hometown and local community. During the interview, the host asked Michael why he didn't react with anger when the woman slapped him at the airport. Michael smiled softly and replied, "I knew that reacting with anger could only make things worse. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is to stay calm and speak your truth clearly." That moment was painful, but it was also an opportunity to show that respect is something we all deserve, no matter who we are. The host nodded, clearly impressed. "Your story has inspired so many. How do you handle the attention and responsibility?" Michael paused before answering. "Not always easy. But I believe this isn't just about me. It's about all of us working together to create a world where people are judged by their character, not by their skin color or where they come from." As the interview aired, social media exploded with support. People praised Michael's grace and strength. Some shared their own stories of facing discrimination and how his example gave them hope. Others thanked him for reminding the world that kindness and understanding could be more powerful than anger. Not long after the interview, Michael received an invitation from a major university. They wanted him to give a talk to students about empathy, respect, and handling difficult situations. Michael agreed, feeling honored and eager to help young people learn important lessons. On the day of the talk, the university auditorium was filled with students from all backgrounds. Michael spoke honestly about his experience, about the fear and confusion he felt, and about the choice he made to respond with calmness. He explained why it was important to stand up for oneself without resorting to anger or violence. After his talk, many students came up to thank him. One young woman said, "Your story showed me that even when people treat you unfairly, you don't have to become like them. You can be better." Michael smiled, feeling hopeful for the future. He knew these conversations were planting seeds that might grow into greater understanding over time. Meanwhile, back in the world of airports and travel, changes were beginning to take shape. Michael had been working with several airport authorities, sharing his story and giving advice on how to improve training for staff and security. The goal was to teach workers how to handle stressful situations with patience and respect, especially when emotions run high. One day, Michael was invited to speak at an airport conference. The room was filled with people who managed airports from around the country. He spoke about the power of calmness and clear communication. He reminded them that travelers come from all walks of life, and that kindness could make a huge difference in someone's day. The airport officials listened carefully and promised to improve their training programs. They also said they would launch new campaigns promoting respect and understanding in airports nationwide. Michael was proud. His experience was helping to create real change in places where tensions often rise. At the same time, Michael was still running his nonprofit, Stand with Grace. The group had grown steadily and was now working in many cities. They hosted workshops, community gatherings, and online discussions. People who had felt ignored or powerless found a place to share their stories and receive support. One evening, Michael received an email that touched him deeply. It was from a father who wrote about his teenage son, Jamal, who had been struggling with bullying at school. The father said that after watching Michael's interview, Jamal had found courage to stand up for himself and to treat others with kindness too. Michael replied, encouraging Jamal and offering to connect him with resources through Stand with Grace. Moments like these reminded Michael why he kept sharing his story. Despite all the positive attention, Michael still thought often about Denise Walton, the woman who had slapped him. He hoped she was using the experience to grow and learn. He knew people can change if given the chance. One afternoon, Michael got an unexpected call. It was from Denise herself. She said she wanted to talk, not to argue or defend her actions, but to apologize in person. Michael agreed to meet her at a quiet coffee shop. When they sat down, Denise looked nervous, but sincere. She explained how the incident had opened her eyes to her own fears and biases. She said she had been angry that day, frustrated by delays and personal problems, but she regretted how she had taken it out on Michael. Michael listened without interrupting. When she finished, he spoke gently. "Thank you for your honesty. It takes courage to admit mistakes. I believe this moment can be a chance for both of us to move forward." They talked about their experiences and shared thoughts about respect and understanding. It was not easy, but the conversation was a step toward healing. After their meeting, Michael felt a sense of peace. He knew forgiveness was powerful, not just for the person forgiven, but for the one who forgives. As the months passed, Michael continued his work. He traveled to speak, helped build community programs, and inspired many. But he also took time for himself, for his family, and for Buddy, his loyal dog. He often thought about how one moment, just a few seconds at Gate 27, had changed everything. A moment that could have led to anger or pain had instead become a message of hope. Michael believed that if more people chose to stand with grace, the world could become kinder, fairer, and more understanding. His story was not just about what happened at an airport. It was about the power each person holds to change how we treat one another. And that power, he hoped, would continue to grow with every act of kindness and respect. After months of speaking, traveling, and working with his nonprofit, Michael felt a deep sense of purpose. What started as a moment of tension and misunderstanding at an airport had blossomed into something much bigger than he ever imagined. He knew that the road ahead would not always be easy, but he was ready to keep walking it with patience and hope. One sunny morning, Michael received an unexpected invitation. The management of JFK Airport wanted him to return not as a passenger, but as a special guest to speak at a new training program for airport staff. They had listened to his story and believed his message could help create a more welcoming environment for travelers from all walks of life. Michael accepted the invitation gladly. On the day of the event, the airport training center was filled with worker security officers, gate agents, cleaners, and customer service staff. Michael stood before them, his heart steady, but his voice clear and strong. He told them about the day at Gate 27, about how a moment of anger could have led to something very different. But he also explained how calmness and respect help change the course of that day, not only for himself, but for everyone watching. "I want you to know," he said, "that every person who walks through these doors carries their own story. Some may be tired, worried, or frustrated, but they all deserve respect and kindness." The audience listened quietly, many nodding in agreement. Michael spoke about how small actions, offering a smile, listening patiently, speaking kindly, can make a big difference. He encouraged them to see travelers not as numbers or problems, but as people, just like themselves. After his talk, several staff members approached him. One security guard shared that he had been feeling stressed at work, unsure how to handle difficult passengers. Hearing Michael's story gave him new confidence to approach situations with patience. Another gate agent said, "Sometimes we forget that people are scared or tired. Your words reminded me to be kinder." Michael smiled, feeling grateful that his experience was helping others improve how they work and treat people. Outside the training room, the airport had also started a new campaign. Posters with messages like "Respect every traveler and kindness is the best security" were placed around terminals. Announcements encouraged passengers and staff alike to practice understanding and patience. As he walked through the terminal that day, Michael noticed the changes. Staff greeted travelers with friendly smiles. Passengers seemed calmer. The atmosphere felt warmer. He thought back to the day of the incident, remembering the tension and fear. Now, it felt like a new chapter was beginning. Back home, Michael continued to grow his nonprofit, Stand with Grace. The group had helped hundreds of people by providing workshops, legal advice, and emotional support. They connected people from different backgrounds and encouraged. Community-building. One project that Michael was especially proud of was a mentorship program. It paired young people who had faced challenges with adults who could guide and support them. Many mentors and mentees shared stories of growth, friendship, and hope. Michael often received messages from people whose lives had changed because of the program. A young man who once felt isolated wrote, "Because of Stand with Grace, I found my voice," single mother shared. "This group helped me believe in myself again." These messages reminded Michael why he had chosen to speak up. He wasn't just telling his story for attention, he was helping to build a better future, despite all the positive changes. Michael never forgot the quiet moments that grounded him. He still took long walks with Buddy in the evenings, enjoying the calm of nature after busy days, spent time with family and friends, remembering that connection was important. He also kept learning. Michael attended classes on leadership and communication, wanting to be the best example he could be. He read books about kindness, patience, and resilience. Every day was a chance to grow. One evening, Michael sat on his porch watching the sunset. His phone buzzed with a message from Jasmine. "Your story inspired my book club today. We talked about respect and grace. You're making a real difference." Michael smiled, feeling warm inside. He thought about all the moments he had lived through the confusion. The fear, the strength, and now the hope. His story had touched many lives, but it had also changed him. More than anything, Michael believed in the power of kindness. He knew the world wasn't perfect, and people made mistakes. But every day offered new chances to be better, to listen more, to judge less. He hoped his story would remind people that standing with grace wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a sign of courage. As he closed his eyes, he remembered the moment at the airport one last time. How a simple act of calm had sparked a movement. How respect could change a day, a community, even a life. And with that thought, Michael looked forward. Tomorrow ready to keep walking the path of kindness, patience, and hope. Let me know if you want me to help with anything else.